The Innovators Network.
Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
This week's show may make you uncomfortable. We are going to talk about bad habits. We all have them. I have them. You have them. Everybody has bad habits. Now, what we're going to talk about today is bad habits that are killing your creativity. Those habits that get in the way of you achieving creative success. Now, what I'm going to share with you today is the 8 bad habits, the 8 most common bad habits that I come across when I am coaching and mentoring either executives or teams, entire organizations. These are the ones that I run into over and over again. Now, a little bit of this show also is speaking to myself. I still struggle with some of these bad habits that we're going to talk about today, and I share with you some of the stories and some of the struggles that I have with getting over some of these bad habits. So, you're never going to get perfect. You're not going to get rid of all of your bad habits. You're not going to get rid of all of these bad habits that are killing your creativity, but be aware of them, keep on guard, and know when they're impacting your creative efforts and find ways around them. Because ultimately, it's your creativity that is going to allow you to achieve career success, personal success, and allow you to change the world. Now, before we jump into this week's episode, got a quick favor to ask. Can you follow, like, and share? Can you follow us on social media? Keep up with what we're talking about. We are engaged throughout the week. We post regularly, so that's one way. The other is to like this show, like this episode. Wherever you're getting this podcast, go out, give us a thumbs up, give us a review, give us a comment. Helps people become aware of the show. And can you share it? If you know somebody with this particular topic today would be very beneficial for them, maybe they're struggling, maybe you see them as being very creative, but some of these habits are getting in the way, share this show with them. You can find the link directly to the audio file inside of the show notes over at killerinnovations.com. Just copy that link, send it over to somebody and say, hey, listen to this, or send them the post on social media if you happen to have come across one of our social media posts. So again, can you follow, like, and share? That helps us out an immense amount. And with that, let's hop in to this week's episode.
This episode is sponsored by Zoom. With Zoom, you can streamline your communication, collaboration, and creativity all in one place. Zoom is the market-leading platform that provides video meetings, voice, webinars, and chat across desktops, phones, tablets, and conference room systems. To learn more about Zoom and sign up for your free account, visit killerinnovations.com/Zoom.
It takes a lot of practice and a huge amount of patience to develop your creativity. So what is killing your creativity before you even get started? Bad habits. There are bad habits people learn which absolutely will crush their creativity. But like all bad habits, we can break these if we are willing to work at it. So what are habits? Habits are things we do automatically. We do them without thinking. Now, they can be good habits or they can be bad habits. A bad habit is something you do that is bad for you. Smoking is an example. Maybe drinking too much. Whatever, something that's not helpful to you, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. Those would be classified as a bad habit. A good habit is something that's helpful in your life. Eating well, staying away from sugar, exercising, good social interaction, having a good social network of friends, those are all good habits. If bad habits impede what you want to accomplish, then they need to be replaced with better ones. It can take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks for bad habits to be formed. It takes months or even years for good habits to be formed. Yes, bad habits form very, very quickly, but it takes an immense amount of effort to establish the good habits. So, for instance, let's say you want to exercise more and you want to go out and run every day after work, and you do that for 2 weeks. Then the third week, you have this big project at work and you have no energy left at the end of the day, and you just skip the running. This makes running seem bad because in your mind, it becomes linked with feeling bad, feeling tired, end of the day, stress, or you get into this mental loop that you're being lazy about it. You're not committing to it. If you go out and you make running every day after work a good habit, then you'll keep doing it, even when you're tired, because it feels good. It feeds upon itself. You did it one more day. You kept the pace going. You did it on a day even when you were tired, and you do that over a long period of time, then running becomes that established as a good habit, not as this bad habit. Breaking bad habits can be tough, but it's not impossible. Now, many people, me included, we have bad habits, we try to break them, and then we backslide. We fall back into those bad habits. It's easy to do. Now, you need to be aware of your bad habits, and then you need to find the new routine that gives you the reward for creating a good habit to replace it. Since some bad habits are more harmful than others, you should look at how bad they are for your creativity. For example, say you spend too much time watching TV instead of reading, writing, or being out in the world looking for problems to solve as an innovator, or looking for new ideas for that new startup that you want to do. Spending all day indoors watching TV is bad for your creativity because you're not getting any new input. You're passively just absorbing information versus actively searching for that next idea. So while some bad habits are more harmful than others, you should fix them for the health of your creativity as well as just the health of your brain. So what we're going to talk about today is the 8 bad habits that are killing your creativity. These 8 are the ones that I have found that, if addressed, unleash an immense amount of creativity. It takes away all of these things that just kill your creativity right out of the starting gate. So let's jump in. Number 1, not allowing yourself time to relax and daydream. Now, this is probably one of the most common bad habits that will squelch your creativity. Allowing yourself some downtime each day is not only necessary, but it's crucial in order to allow your creativity juices to flow. Face it, at the end of a long, stressful day at work or coming into the weekend, people need more than just a few hours of sleep before you have to get up the next day and start all over again. You need a break. You need to allow that refreshment to happen. To allow your brain to just settle, to let that subconscious kick in and find those connections that are going to be that spark for that next idea or solving that problem. Most people know they need to take some of this time for themselves to relax in order to recharge, but many just don't realize that it's just as important for their creativity as it is for their mental health. We've seen these studies where people lacking of sleep or the stress of just working all the time and what that does to people's mental health. Giving yourself some time each day to relax and let your mind wander can do wonders in terms of helping you to come up with those new ideas, think outside the box, and make connections that might not otherwise have been made. So every day, allow yourself time to relax and to daydream. The number 2 bad habit, procrastination. Putting off tasks, especially creative ones, until later can be detrimental, as it often means that you're just never going to get around to it. You're going to put it off. You're going to say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it this afternoon. I struggle with this with my writing, given that I blog every week. I put the scripts together for the show. I'm also working on the new book. So it's easy for me to kind of get a little, maybe even burnt out a little bit, and I'll procrastinate. I have an objective of having so many words written per day. And okay, I don't quite make it. I'll put it off till tomorrow. I'll make it up tomorrow. Oh, I'll wait till Saturday and I'll do double the effort and I'll catch up, right? Never happens. You just never get around to doing it at all. Now, beyond creativity, procrastination is just bad for your mental health. And let me give you some advice as a CEO. It's bad for your career prospects. If you can put you behind on projects, it leaves you feeling overwhelmed, hopeless, and makes you feel like a complete failure that you'll never get ahead. I've seen people procrastinate on projects, put it off to the point where there's just no way to catch up. They cannot recover from putting it off. And so therefore they tried to hide it, or they mislead their teams or their leaders and managers. Procrastination, I'd almost put it into a category of a disease. But this does not have to be the case. You don't have to just accept the fact that you're a procrastinator. One of the best things that I have learned with chronic procrastination tendencies is to set yourself clear deadlines and then share them. Make them public. Share them with your teammates. Share them with other people within your organization, with your spouse. In my case, with my agent or my publisher. I'm going to have this done by this date. I'm going to give you a chapter. Chapter 1 will be in your email. And I get driven, once I've given that word, to make it happen. So again, one of the best ways to deal with procrastination is set that schedule and then share that schedule with others. The number 3 bad habit is perfectionism. Perfectionism. So many great ideas just never see the light of day because people get bogged down in the details. They want it to be perfect. Anything less than perfection is a failure in their mind. It's important to give yourself permission to make mistakes and to see just the beauty of the idea. Even if it's flawed, you haven't worked out every little kink in the idea. There's some things that, maybe a little, you haven't thought it through, or it's got this little issue with it. Don't let that hang up moving forward. Perfectionists are rarely satisfied. I've seen absolutely beautiful ideas, pitches, projects, but they're not satisfied. They don't get that feeling of accomplishment because it wasn't perfect. So they often just put off doing anything. They don't want that disappointment in themselves. They worry about the disappointment they get from others. So they just don't even try. They give up. And the issue there is again, they never move forward. They may have great ideas, but if they're not perfect, they never get started. And this barrier to never starting a creative effort out of the belief that it's imperfect will basically doom this individual to never having had any form of impact. An idea that they came up with never gets executed, never gets turned into an innovation, and never solves the problem that they have been focusing on. Give up on that idea of perfection. Nothing is perfect. You are not perfect. I am not perfect. Nobody is perfect. Same applies to an idea. Your idea is not perfect. My idea is not perfect. Get over it. Perfectionism. Don't let it turn into a bad habit for you on your creative efforts. The number 4 bad habit is over researching before starting a project. Over researching. Now, decades ago, it was standard practice for students, scientists, engineers to research any topic they were given before beginning to write about it or solve the problem or create about it. And they would go off and they would just do these intense deep dives into the subject matter. Now, while this may be necessary for some projects, others do not require as extensive research. This bad habit manifests when people feel they need to read about every possible angle on the topic, on the area, on the problem, on the whatever, before they can even start. They won't even put a dot on a piece of paper until they've satisfied themselves that they have read and researched every possible angle. While this may help with some projects such as research papers, but for others, such as if you're a creative, you're a painter or a sculptor, it may be just too much background reading. It can actually hinder your creativity instead of helping it along. Anytime you start something new, give yourself permission to just jump right in without doing too much background research first. Particularly, this is helpful if you are new to a subject matter. Jump in. Why is this good? Because you are coming in with fresh eyes. You're not tainted by all of the research. Guess what? Every piece of research, every reading you will do will be biased. Somebody who wrote that paper had an opinion, and they're conveying that opinion in the book they wrote, or in the paper they've written, or in the blog post they have up. That information, this background material, is biased. So don't over-research before you jump in. Give yourself permission to go for it. Jump in and just attack the opportunity, because those fresh eyes, those eyes that have not been tainted, that have not become biased, can open up new opportunities that others just would never see. Number 5, bad habit. Listening only to critics. This is probably the biggest barrier to creativity. Listening only to people who tell you what you can't do. Now, it's important to surround yourself with creative people who inspire you and who support your vision, rather than trying so hard to please everyone. Look, you're going to have critics. You're going to have people who don't like what you've done. Yeah, one question I get is do I read the reviews of people that post up on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever about my book? Now, when I wrote Beyond the Obvious, you're hoping that you're going to have a New York Times bestseller and you're going to sell gobs and gobs and gobs. And, fortunately, I at least had the mental fortitude to recognize that Beyond the Obvious was not the objective. The objective was to take everything that I knew and put it in a form such that you can easily consume it and you can become self-sufficient and you can be encouraged to find your own ways of being creative. But yes, I do read the critics. I do read the reviews. And there are some people out there that are just absolutely brutal on criticizing, in this case, my book. In fact, last night I was on Goodreads and reading some of the old critiques because I'm in the middle of working on the new book. And so wanting to kind of see if there was anything in those critics' comments that I wanted to take into mind for as I'm working on the new book. But you have to be careful. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're never going to write a book that 100% of everybody who ever reads it is going to love it. It just doesn't work that way. Know what you're trying to do. Surround yourself with people who understand your vision and who can be that encouragement, who can, also guide you through that process. But you're never going to satisfy. Don't let the critics derail you. Now, listening to critics becomes a trap, and you need to address this bad habit. It's very important. It's not just for creatives, but it's also for entrepreneurs if you're working on a new idea for a business or any professional. Even in your day job, people are always critical. You're not doing the process right or that task right. If we're not careful, we'll find ourselves constantly second guessing our decisions and never taking action because we're fearful. We're fearful that some critic will be out there pointing out how wrong we are. And while it's true that some criticism can be helpful, such as beta readers of materials that I'm working on, too much criticism can actually kill your creativity by making you afraid of hearing bad news about anything related to your work. It's important to focus on the positive feedback and use that to keep moving forward. Now, criticism can be a valuable learning tool, but it should never hold you back from pursuing your dreams. You need to build up that thick skin. Particularly in the innovation game, people are going to be highly critical. Oh, that idea will never work. You just don't know what you're doing. You don't have the experience. I'm the expert. This is going to cost too much. Somebody somewhere probably already thought up that idea. It's not very creative. I've heard them all. You've probably heard them all. But criticism can be a valuable learning tool, but it should not hold you back. Go for it. Go for it. Number 6, bad habit. Trying to do everything yourself. Now, this bad habit will have probably one of the biggest impact stopping you from being just productive, whether it's in your creative work or any other task you're working on. This is where you have to do everything. You don't trust anybody else. Nobody else is going to do it as well as you. And so therefore, you need to control it. You need to do it all. This has even a compounding effect on your creative success because you will get wound up on overseeing all the tasks and therefore not leaving the time for the creative effort that you need to apply. Now, think about it. It's hard to think outside the box when your mind is constantly occupied with details that need to be addressed right away. This focus on needing to do everything yourself, your mind focuses on the urgent, not the important. The urgent is what do I need to have done by lunch? Who do I need to get an email out by mid-afternoon? What invoices do I need to send out? Blah, blah, blah. You focus on the urgent, not the important. Now, you can delegate tasks to other people so that the tasks have a better chance of being completed just as well and on time. And by doing this delegation, it'll free up your time to bring your full creative self to the project. Now, that's easy to say. But if you are a control freak, micromanager, anal retentive, this is a hard, bad habit to let go of. You want to have your finger in the pie. Even if you delegate to somebody, you're in their face every day, double checking every step. Why? Because you in your head, you know exactly how you want it done. And you know that nobody else is going to do it exactly the way you would do it. Well, guess what? They're not going to do it that way because they're not you. I have this conversation with my vice presidents, directors, managers on a regular basis. You have to let go. Yes, The person you're delegating to is not going to do it the way you would do it. And they may not do it as good as you would do it. But is it good enough? Are they learning? Can you give them constructive feedback? It may even take longer for them to do it than it would take for you to do it if you just did it yourself. Don't fall into the trap of jumping in and doing it. You need to let go. You have to work with people and get them to take on some of those tasks, because then it frees you up for that creative effort to come up with that new idea. And so therefore, this is one that I know is very, very hard. I have one executive who I hold in very high regard, and it probably took 2.5, 3 years to break this habit. Have a good couple of weeks, fall back into the bad habit. Try again, maybe last another month, fall back into this bad habit. Because we can rationalize it. We rationalize it in the fact that it needs to be done right, and I know how to do it, and it's faster for me to do it. I'll just do it. And then I'll do the other work in the midnight to 4 a.m. time block. And therefore, we're stressing people out. We're working 7 days a week. And, no. This bad habit of trying to do everything yourself is one that is incredibly hard to break, but absolutely critical for your creative success. And therefore, you need to focus on this. This becomes almost an addiction to have this control, micromanaging. So, again, number 6, trying to do everything yourself is going to absolutely kill your creativity. Number 7 bad habit is judging your own work too harshly. Judging your own work too harshly. Now, it's natural to be critical of our own work, but it's important not to get bogged down in self-doubt. You need to have creative confidence. Creativity thrives on this sense of freedom and experimentation, trusting yourself. If you're too quick to judge your ideas as bad or wrong, you'll never know if they could have been good, better, or just an absolutely breakthrough idea. You may even miss out on some truly great ideas because deep down inside, you just didn't believe in them enough to even give them a chance. They couldn't even get onto the starting block to actually become an idea. When you're overly critical of your own work, we become more guarded with our thoughts and less likely to share them with others, which it stifles our creativity, our opportunity to collaborate, the opportunity to get honest feedback from others. This tends to happen when we have ideas that maybe have a similar feel to our previous idea that didn't work out. So we'll look at this idea and go, oh, I tried something similar to that. Man, that was a disaster. I'm not going to try that again. And we cut it off. We stop it before it even gets started. It's one of the reasons why in a brainstorming session or an ideation sprint, when I'm facilitating those sessions with companies, I'm very clear to get people to stop the judgment. Don't judge each other's ideas. Here I'm telling you, don't judge the idea in your head. Don't get caught in that trap, right? Do not apply the judgment like, oh, this is a really good idea, but. If you say, this is a really good idea, but, as soon as you say the word but, you're building up a counter thought to that idea. Do not allow the use of the word but when you're thinking about working on creatively developing an idea. Because as soon as you do that, you've thrown down a roadblock. You've thrown down that speed bump. In fact, I've got stickers around here in the studio somewhere I used to hand out at brainstorming sessions that has the word but, B-U-T, with a red circle around it and a slash line through it. And when I heard somebody use the but word in brainstorming sessions, I'd walk out and stick it right, in front of them. Put it right on their desk, put it right on their notebook, on their computer screen, make them wear it on their badge to remind them, do not use that word, because as soon as you use that word, you have applied judgment. Do not apply judgment. Do not be overly critical with your own ideas. Okay? And number 8, what's the number 8 bad habit that kills your creativity? Giving up too easily. By giving up too easily on the hard problems and tasks that come your way, you never will accomplish anything. Look, companies hire experts, people to provide leadership, people to bring their creativity to the job, to do the hard work. If it was easy work, they could hire, some people with no experience, no background. You are getting paid to do hard, to do that hard work. Now, often you won't be able to solve all the problems or complete the task, but it's still an opportunity to learn. Not everything works out. You're going to experiment with something and it's going to fail. You're going to try to solve the problem. You don't solve the problem, but maybe you find a different way to get around the problem without completely solving it. But giving up, throwing the towel in, just as soon as it starts to become a little hard, you are going to miss out on a huge amount of opportunities. Plus, that is not what you're getting paid for. Whether you work for a large organization or you're self-employed, you're paying yourself to do the hard work. That's what creates value, and that's what other people will exchange. They'll exchange to get access to your idea, to your creativity, to whatever product, service, or thing that you're working on, because if they try to do it, it's too hard. They're paying you to do that hard work. So you cannot give up too easily. You got to work it. You got to do the hard work. Now, what I have found when you really take on a really tough, hard problem is you get this feeling of accomplishment that can build your confidence. Even if it doesn't truly work out, but you really put that effort in, it builds that creative confidence. And that creative confidence feeds in for future projects and future challenges, boosts your self-esteem, which is always good. Now, this bad habit of giving up too easily, it actually starts to feed and support procrastination, another bad habit that we've already talked about, because there's no sense of urgency when you give up so quickly. Oh, we tried it, we gave it up, and so therefore it didn't work out. I'll wait and just wait for another problem or whatever, right? So this habit of giving up too easily feeds procrastination. If it becomes hard, I'm going to give up on it. It's too hard, which allows me to rationalize why I procrastinated. And again, it creates this, this lack of urgency when you give up so quickly, because before they've been completed, and it's a bad habit that'll hold you back long term. It's this lack of motivation. It's important to remember that nothing worthwhile comes easy. And if you want to achieve great things, you've got to really, really work at it. So again, let's go back through the bad habits one more time. So, number 1, not allowing yourself time to relax or daydream. Number 2, procrastination. Bad one. One I have to work at. Number 3, perfectionism. Number 4, over-researching before you even start a project. Number 5 is listening only to your critics. Number 6, trying to do everything yourself. Don't be that micromanager. Do not be that control freak. Number 7, judging your own work too harshly. Do not use the but word. Number 8, giving up too easily. Giving up too easily. If there's one thing all creatives have in common, it's a sense of freedom and experimentation. It's why we do it, right? It's why, you're listening to this show, this episode today, and I don't know how long you've been a listener, but you're listening because you've got that itch. You've got that interest. You want to be more creative. You want to innovate. Maybe you have an idea, right? But it's the one thing that all creatives have in common. It's the sense of freedom. I'm going to try something. I'm going to experiment. But these bad habits that we just talked about, it's going to stifle that. These bad habits, if you allow them to persist, will stifle it. You may be a creative, but if any of these bad habits are a problem for you, they're holding you back. They are killing your creativity. Now, the trick here is balance. Don't be too critical or judgmental of your own creativity, but also don't give up if things get tough. Instead, focus on surrounding yourself with people who support your vision and empower creativity rather than just listening only to critics who tell you what not to do. Now, I hope you'll take the time to work on these bad habits and let them go so that you can stop holding yourself back from achieving creative success. So which of the bad habits are the ones you are struggling with? For me, as I shared, procrastination. That's the one I suffer, particularly when it comes to my writing. I keep telling myself, I'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'll put in 3 or 4 hours before my work day. And then 5 o'clock comes around, the alarm goes off. I look outside, it's still dark, and I'm not getting out of bed. And this is the one I struggle with the hardest. And it's a big challenge for me. It's the one I know, and I know it holds me back. I could probably produce more writings. I could get more books out. I can post more blog posts, etc. But the procrastination is the one that gets in the way. So which of these 8 bad habits are holding you back? And what are you going to do about it? Just don't acknowledge it that, hey, I've got this bad habit. What are you going to do? What are you going to do today? How do you find the steps to create a good habit? One way is find an accountability partner. Tell somebody. Give them permission to kick your butt if you start falling into these bad habits. In my case, on the procrastination, right? Telling my spouse or telling my agent or my publisher that I'm going to have a certain number of pages and words written so that they get the chapters on a regular schedule for the new book. Anything along those lines. Find yourself an accountability partner and give them permission to kick your butt if you start backsliding back into a bad habit that's impacting your ability to achieve creative success. Thanks again for taking the time to join us. I do appreciate you listening on a regular basis. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. You can get us over on iHeart, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. For some reason, Spotify has become very popular amongst the listeners. It's rapidly growing into being one of the top 5 sites for people who download the show. So, but you can get this show from any of the podcast sites. We've been around now. We'll be coming up on 18 years now of doing the show. We are the longest continuously produced podcast in history, and we're here because of you, the encouragement, the feedback, the notes, the emails that you send in, encouraging myself and the team who work on the show each and every week. So again, we thank you for that. Can you do us a favor? Can you tell one other person about the show? Can you just, mention it to somebody who you might think benefit from it, or let other people know? That helps us get the word out and helps me satisfy the commitment that I made to my first mentor, Bob Davis. Many years after my success, I was CTO at Hewlett-Packard. I went and talked with Bob, and I was thanking him because he put in a huge amount of effort into my career, getting me set on the right path right out of the gate. And I asked him how I could pay him back, and he laughed. He goes, "You cannot pay me back. You have to pay it forward." And this podcast was a result of that conversation. It is my way to pay it forward by sharing both the good, the bad, the ugly, the lessons learned, the struggles, the frustrations, my failings in over my career, in hopes that it helps you navigate the complexity of being an innovator in a world that doesn't really sometimes recognize the value of ideas and the value of innovation. So hopefully you find the show and the archive helpful to you. If so, can you just tell one other person? That would be great, and I would greatly appreciate it. With that, have a great week. Whatever ideas you're working on, don't give up. Keep working it and go out and change the world. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.
This show is distributed by the Innovators Network. For more information and other great shows and content, visit theinnovators.network.